Okay, well, you know what? I think I'm going to get started. I'll introduce myself. Not everyone here knows me. I'm Joanne Nistico. I'm a Shaklee Master Coordinator, and I'm hosting this Thursday evening, which is called Spotlight on Growth. And I asked Lisa Stocker, who's a good friend of ours in Shaklee, and I was so impressed. I've always been impressed with Lisa and Ron in Shaklee, and so we've sort of adopted them into our Gen Team group. But I was also very impressed with our speaker tonight, Emily McNamara. When I first met her, I think you were just starting, Emily, and Lisa talks about you, or when I'm meeting with Lisa, she discusses some of the neat things that you're doing, and I'm saying, wow, I'm really impressed. I think she's really got it together in terms of identifying what her niche is and how passionate she is about it. So before I say anything else, I'm going to have Lisa extend the invitation on inviting and talking about her wonderful first level, their wonderful first level, Emily McNamara. So Lisa Stocker.
All right, thank you. I love talking about Emily and my group. I got the opportunity to meet Emily, I guess it's been about 3 years ago or so, longer.
4 or 5. It was right
Oh
after.
dear. Okay, time goes so quickly. 4 or 5 years. And I met her through another girl that I had met at an event I was doing at a gym. So I did not, it was kind of indirectly, but I got to meet her. And I was wanting to expand my business. And I thought teachers would be a good group to talk to because they're already teaching, they're already helping people. And as I got to know Emily, she was a teacher. So I met with her and asked her if she knew a teacher that was looking for a second income or an extra stream of income, and not even thinking about her per se. I just thought, well, she knows a lot of people. So I met with her and we talked a little bit and she goes, yes, me, I want to learn more. I was so excited. That was kind of the beginning of all of this. And she is just an absolute delight to have as a friend and as a team member. She's fun, she's coachable, just determined to reach her goals and her dreams through helping others. So it's not just her goals and dreams, it's everybody that she pulls along with her. And it's just a blast. We have so much fun together. So I'm excited to share Emily with you tonight so you can hear her story. So Emily, take it away.
Yeah, so I actually did find some pictures from my most recent BNI presentation that I can share if you want to see a little bit more about me.
Yeah.
Sure.
So let me figure it out. I know we like to be silly. So this is my husband, Anthony, who I actually think is on here now. But we like to have fun. And I taught special ed for 8 years. And down there on the bottom right is one of my classes when I taught in Lebanon. And I just have a heart helping and sharing. And I chose the profession I did in working with special needs students because I liked the aspect of building on their life skills and teaching them how to be more independent. And I really think that's why I love Shaklee so much, because I'm doing the same with people now. I'm teaching them how to be more independent in their own lives in terms of their health, and so that they can, have a better quality of life as they age. So I always like to share my students because that's me now within Shaklee. I'm still a teacher and I still love educating and training, and that's where God put me in life. And I love that I'm able to continue that with Shaklee. And my husband and I, we love to travel. So I can't wait when that's a thing again. And we can do that. This past year, we were supposed to have been in Paris on our anniversary. So instead, we went to a French restaurant up the street, and I got little, paper things to pretend we were there in this restaurant. It's fun. And then those are my parents down there in that horrible selfie that I took in the bottom left. They're some of my biggest encouragers, and just also Shaklee users too. I mean, that's kind of where my story starts. Lisa said, I met her through another teacher friend that she had met at the gym. And this friend just handed me Lisa's business card and said, will you fill out this health print just so I can get some money in product? And I said, sure, I'll help you. No big deal. And of course, Lisa's amazing follow-up and just personable attitude. I couldn't not get on a phone call with her. And then Anthony and I met with her at a Panera Bread. And of course, she's asking me all these questions, very personal questions. I'm like, who is this lady? And why is she asking me these things? But now I realize how important they are because of your core nutrition and your health. And so it just kind of goes from there. But I didn't realize as a teacher, so down there in that picture with the kiddos on our field trip, I'm like, I'm young, I'm healthy. Joanne, I don't know if you remember, but on the last call, you mentioned you found Shaklee, in your 20s when you were like, I felt fine. You don't have to feel bad to feel better. And that's where I was. I didn't realize a lot of the stuff that got better in my life they were an issue. I didn't realize that. So, for as much fun and things that we love to do and travel, I didn't realize I was having some serious gut issues. I didn't have very much energy as a teacher. I was sick frequently, even though, we build up our immune systems as teachers. I was still battling a lot of stuff at like the same time every year. And now I can count on, one hand how many times something like that is happening, or I'm able to get over it a little bit quicker, but all it was consistency. I think that was all it was Lisa would follow up with me, and she was like my accountability partner, and I'm like, yep, took my vitalizer strip, I'm loving that shake. I was already doing smoothies in the morning, so all I had to do was add our life shake in there. I mean, it was just an easy switch, something I already knew to do, but keeping consistent with it, just like with my business now, and finding what I'm passionate about, what works for me. And then Melissa, my life coach, she's on here tonight, we talk about rinsing and repeating. So finding what works, keeping consistent, using that to benefit my business, but also to help and share with others too. So I actually have part of my story too, hopefully guess, is our running story. So one day, Anthony and I woke up and we're like, should we, that running company down the street that like we see people running at 7 a.m. and we think they're crazy people. Should we just try that? Should we just see? So we're like, yeah, let's just do a 5K. We'll just do a 5K. So far left picture, that's us after our first ever pumpkin run, which it had rained the night before. Terry, I know you're on here. You were at this event too. We were like, what is this? We're running in mud. Our time was horrible. We're like, we're never running again. But it was a lot of fun because it was something that we did together, but also we had our, our hydrate and our energy chews and stuff to like keep our sports nutrition in check. So then after it was over, we're like, oh, it actually wasn't too bad. What should we do next? So then we signed up for a 10K, and then we ran a half marathon, and I'm currently crazily possibly training for a 50K with my small running group. But that's where my mantra is, it just takes that first small change, and it's just building those healthy habits. And just like with my teaching life, and sharing with those kids, it's those small aha moments that then they can keep building on, and we can find what motivates and what they're good at. Same thing with our health journey. If I can find, oh yeah, this is a pretty simple swap, I can do that. Then I build that into my regimen. And then the next thing comes along. And same thing with my business too. This is what works. Keep building on that consistently. Here's the next thing. How can I help this person? That worked for this person. So it's again, just that rinse and repeat, but same thing with the first small change of running. We didn't just wake up one day. Well, we did kind of, but we weren't like, let's go run a marathon right now. We started with a 5K. We built it up to the next one. So all of my health and business is built on that first small change, because that's where it starts. You can't just, I think you guys have probably seen that visual where you can't climb the whole ladder without all the rungs, right? Like you can't just jump to the next one. You have to take those baby steps each time. And that's exactly what I learned in my health when I realized, oh, hey, I actually feel a lot better when I thought I already felt good. And same thing with my business and building and helping others and sharing that story for them to have the same opportunity. So what did I miss, Lisa? I feel like I missed probably a lot of stuff.
I think, I mean, that's your health story a little bit too. And I think some events that you've done to help start to build your business, because you did a lot of events, and that's the running, how that I think started too. And
Yeah, so actually, that's a good point. I just kind of plugged in where things were happening. So if I saw um, a Cincinnati Running Club, I think that was maybe the first one I ever did. They had like a vendor show, so just plugged in there and met people. And then I realized we had our running store not too far down here, so plugged in there, and just again, rinsing and repeating, finding those things that worked, getting into the places where wellness is already a priority or people are coming there because that's their mentality is for wellness. It was an easy and kind of a no-brainer to collaborate with those people and be able to find people that way. And even now, I mean, it's a little bit harder doing in-person events, but last July when the weather got nice, Lisa came over, we did a driveway smoothie party. You know, you just kind of do what you can to do something different, bring people in. Really, you all know this as Shaklee people, it's building relationships. It's finding new friends. And then from there, Shaklee just happens. We don't have smoothie parties or events to just be like, hey, you should do this right now. It's, hey, you know, this is me. Let me learn more about you, and building that relationships for that know, like, and trust that we're always talking about. And you're like a walking testimonial. You know, we always say, Shaklee, you live it out loud, right? In just your everyday life and building from there. So it did those events and keeping consistent with those helped me build people to a point where, you know, a sustainable PV for myself. And so now, you know, my next steps are to have business builders doing it with me so I can work smarter and not harder, you know? So
Emily, let me ask you, what was your why, or what was your choice of making a career change? Because
that's
you
a good,
were a, you know, special ed teacher involved with it, you know, a school system, and then all of a sudden a light bulb went on and you said, I want to make a change. What was the reason?
that's a good question. So of course, you know, once I started feeling better and realized the amazing Shaklee difference, it was, hey, Lisa, yes, I'm a teacher and I want to do the business side to get my product paid for. And I just started seeing the opportunities that came with that. And I had never, when I first started teaching, I never thought that I would switch from that career, right? My dad would always ask me, do you have a plan B? And I'm like, no, Dad, I'm being teaching forever. But then, you know, it kind of wears you down a little bit. The 9 to 5 can wear you down. Not that there's anything wrong with a 9 to 5, but as I started seeing that side hustle and that opportunity arise, I was like, oh, this could be a possibility. And it was continuing that consistent work in my own health and sharing with others. And as I saw I was still teaching just in a different way, I think that's when the light bulb really went off. I'm like, you know what? I can stay in this typical teaching position and that's fine. Or I could do, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. But if I have the opportunity to still do what I love, pick my schedule, say yes or no to the people I work with, that was huge. And it wasn't something I'd ever thought was a possibility until Lisa walked into my life and shared Shaklee with me. Thank you for doing that. So it was a process, but I think the realization that I love teaching, this is my passion, this is what I went to school for. Oh, but I can still use it like this over here was huge.
What would you say is your vision of seeing, you know, we have a saying, as a Shaklee Master Coordinator, for those of you that don't know that terminology, I've been in Shaklee for a number of years and have created a full-time career that's quite substantial and successful when I only wanted $50 a week extra when I started. And I was a yoga teacher when I started, and also single and not knowing where I was going to go and what I was going to do. And when my yoga teacher introduced me to Shaklee because he was a purist. But then when I saw what Shaklee offered, I kept realizing that the more people I helped obtain the same things in terms of the career and the business, the more people we helped and overall, because they were duplicating themselves. What do you envision and see for yourself and your husband? in Shaklee? What's kind of the broader picture for you?
Bigger picture for me right now was reaching senior coordinators. So I want to have those two people working the business with me that have their own, because again, as a teacher, I've got my curriculum of what's worked for me that I can share with them, and they can create their own curriculum, and I'm able to coach and collaborate with them. And like you said, just spread more of the word, because I'm only one person and I have this sphere of influence right here, you know, but this person that I've been referred to has this sphere of influence, and they know someone over here. And just like, you know, being a testimonial, you're over here, but you've been able to share the word through all these others over here. And so whether or not kids are in our future, I don't know, but I want to be able to have that flexibility and be able to stay home and go to all of their school functions, you know, if that's what happens. I want to be able to know that we have the opportunity to just pick up and go whenever we want to, or, you know, this isn't a problem for money over here because we have this going on over here. I've learned, especially this past year, that, and Jennifer, I think you said this, that smart business owners diversify their income. This last year showed us that that's no longer an option to have a single income. There's so much stuff that could happen that I never want to. You're always going to worry about something, but that's not something I want to worry about ever again. You know,
What does your husband do?
he is an attorney.
Ah, what kind?
He does labor and employment. So,
Oh boy, that's a good skill to have for, you know, we love the men building the business in our Shaklee world, because it's interesting, no matter how strong a businesswoman you can be, when the men step in to share the business model, it seems that women and everybody listens more. I can't go figure that one out, but we hope to change that eventually a little bit. And I actually think the business is my favorite product because of what it's provided me and my family. You know, and traveling the world, apparently you like to travel, so put your sight on earning some of those wonderful Shaklee trips, because they treat you like royalty. And there's one coming up to Maui, which sounds very exciting. I didn't make that one, unfortunately, but I've not made many others. Let's open it up to see if anybody wants to thank you or ask you a question.
okay.
All right. Stephanie.
I didn't know I was going to get to thank Emily, but now I just came on to support her and to hear a little bit more. But I know Emily as a friend for a few years, and we are in a networking group together. And just last week, I had a meeting or a get together with Emily just to kind of talk about all of our, you know, both of our businesses and life and friends and what's going on. And I came to her and I said, I'm doing intermittent fasting now, and I'm trying this whole different thing for myself, but I find that I'm overwhelmed with the bad food choices that I'm making. Like before that, I was making much better choices, and I don't know where to go. And so she really sat with me and we kind of talked through it, and she helped me come up with, like, what's I don't want to say the worst, but like maybe the first thing I want to concentrate on. And she helped me which is the amount of sweets that I'm eating, you know. And so she helped me to figure out, like, okay, let's find a substitute. What could you have instead? What might be, you know, a much healthier choice or smarter choice for what I want to be eating compared to what I am finding myself eating right now. And we kind of pinpointed it. I do have to admit, Emily, I have not had the time or not taken the time in this past week to make it, but I've been inspired. As soon as I get off this Zoom, I'm going to go make them quickly while I'm still inspired, so that I would just have them in my fridge.
Yay.
Well, I am super impressed with Emily. I mean, the change from when I first met you to the running is astronomical, and that's what you're giving your body better fuel. And when you have better fuel in your body, you have better ability to do the things that you want to do, which is what I loved about it. And I love the Shaklee products. They take everything. But as I said, the business was a lifesaver for me and the career opportunity.
Yeah.
So anyone else have a thank you or a question? I'm sure you all want to thank her.
Well, Emily, I'd like to thank you. You know, one of the big things I'd like to ask you is, first of all, your enthusiasm is infectious. So I really enjoy your energy. So hopefully one day I do get to meet you in person. when you were a teacher, so you were introduced to Shaklee as a teacher and the business. So how did you make the balance? How did you balance work and teaching and all the extra time you put into it with Shaklee? So share a little bit about that juggling, because I think that's very relevant, because most people start this when they do have other things going on and they need the income from the things going on. So share a little bit about your balancing act.
No, that's a good question. So to both places that I taught at, I had roughly a 30-minute drive. So I would do phone calls, hands-free, and I would do lunch breaks anytime that I could find during the day. That was my priority of, if I didn't have a school thing going on at the moment, I would do a follow-up, send a quick text. I would send out an email, or I would answer someone's question or email. So I would just find those pockets of time. And Lisa and I would also do a lot of web chats in the evening, probably like once or twice a month. So always having something to have to invite people to was helpful as well, which we still like to plan and do for those. And there was one more. Oh, so this past year, obviously, the shutdown, I was still teaching at the time. And I was able to find the kind of schedule that I wanted with not teaching all day long, because I was teaching for, small snippets of time. And then I would fill that other time with more follow-up and more planning and more, events that we would do online. And so it was a much easier transition than I had originally planned. That's the blessing I like to pull from the last year, was how it all worked out and that transition out, because I was able to set up that schedule. And when most people were worried about losing their job, I was continuing to keep my Shaklee income consistent and even build my members, because I already had that in place, that I had found those pockets of time in teaching and just shared my life out loud in teaching, right? Like, a lot of people would say, how do you still have so much energy? Or how are you awake till 11 o'clock at night doing what you want to do, not grading papers, right? Like, I would find that boundary, but I also had more energy, and people were recognizing that. And I was just, as a teacher, I think you're just kind of a good listener already. So when people would bring something up, I would just say, hey, I could help with that if you want to chat, and just share my story. So it was finding those pockets of time, keeping that in my schedule consistently. And then, last year, as awful as it kind of was also a blessing for me to build that schedule, even more of that vision I had of, this is what it's going to be like when I quit teaching over here. This is how the teaching's going to look. Yeah.
I think the one thing I wanted to say about that is she made the decision she wanted to do it. And I think that's where people hover a lot. Do I or don't I? Should I or shouldn't I? And that's stressful in itself, and it takes a lot of time. So once a decision with anything is made, then you just start being proactive and just active and doing it. And I could see that's something that she did. And, making a decision now, okay, let's break it down. How do we get to this other point that we want to go to now? What do we need to do? And fun, just seeing that materialize and everything come together.
And doing it with fun and a smile on your face. It wasn't a drag. No one wants to go from a 9-to-5 job and go to a drag job, go something else, or
Right.
business. So if you have fun and you love what you do, it does transform before your very eyes, especially when you keep that joyful attitude about it, which I can see you have, which is very, very nice to see.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could I share something?
Sure, Renee.
So Emily, I wanted to thank you just for being so welcoming. As someone who was already established and on the team, I felt like when I started to get more involved, you've been nothing but kind and encouraging, and I really appreciate that. And I love how down to earth you are, and I think that that's something that attracts other people to you. But my question for you is, from a personal development standpoint, how would you describe your growth over the last year? And what were maybe the top 2 things that you feel were instrumental in that growth for you?
That's a good question. having a good support system is very helpful. And also having, like I've been saying, that consistency piece too. I mean, I knew what my goal was. I knew the steps that it was going to take to get there. And then it was just breaking it down and doing that first small change of whatever it is and just building and building. I think, so my husband tells me all the time, I don't know if he's still listening, but because I'm hard on myself. I'm the kind of person that I'm my own worst critic, right? And I'm like, oh, I just, this is my goal and I'm just not there yet. And he's like, but Emily, reflect on where you were even just a year ago. He's like, the fact that your Shaklee business didn't even like blink, right? Didn't even take a hit last year is huge. And even last year, looking back on 2 years before that, look at where you were. It's kind of seeing the forest through the trees, right? It's a little bit hard when it's me looking back on my own stuff, but when you have that support system and they can see the starting point and where you are, they're a really good reminder of, yeah, but don't be so hard on yourself, because again, look what's worked. So just keep doing it because this has worked. You were here, now you're here. So keep going. So that's a huge thing, that, and just keeping consistent. And I have my bad days too, right? There are days where I'm just like, I'm tired. The world's a mess. I don't know. But I mean, if you're like me, so I'm a believer and I know that God sends things that I need specifically at a time during the day. And I've been getting a lot of those because, again, this year's just been hard. And there are days where and there's that little reminder. I'm like, okay, I hear you. I'm going to keep going. And a lot of times that's Lisa like sending me a text, or that's jumping on a Zoom call with you guys. You know what I mean? So I just love the Shaklee community, and immersing myself in that and having that support system has really built up my confidence and just my love for this business. And it's a motivator to continue doing it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And thank you for the kind words, Renee. I love working with you too.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, anybody else have a question? What I love about this Spotlight on Growth that we'll be doing every once in a while, we'll be doing one in May as well. We're going to have Spotlight for Growth then, and we're going to be doing another program called Real People, Real Stories, and Real Income. That'll be held on April 22nd. So if you'd like more information on that, Lisa can provide it for you. We are opening up to Lisa's and Emily's group as well. So I really have enjoyed you. I've loved to see the growth in people, like you were saying, Renee, to watch a person who just comes in, who has a dream in their mind and eyes, and see it starting to fulfill itself for them. That's one of the biggest joys of Shaklee, because we don't compete, which is so beautiful. Like in other businesses, I wouldn't maybe want Lisa to grow because she's not in our family Shaklee tree, but we don't compete with each other. We really do applaud each other. It's one of the most contributing and connecting group of people that are committed to helping each other be successful. So I've enjoyed it. I've been with the company for over 40 years, and I have seen everything. I've had the highs, the lows, the wonderful opportunities, but I've had all these wonderful friends to also see me along the path and the journey to what I wanted to get out of the business. So thank you very much. I applaud you all for being here tonight. Thank you. And maybe we'll see you again. Never know.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you for being on.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Joanne.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank
Joanne.
you. Nice to meet you, Joanne.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rachel.